folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you for stopping by to take time out of your day to watch the videos. And it means a lot to me in the comments, the emails that you guys and gals are sending me. I really enjoy it. So keep them coming, and I will do my best to respond as soon as I can. Today I wanted to talk again about the stuff that's going on. There's an article on a website, slate.com. Slate.com makes really no... they're not ashamed to show that they are a very left-slanted news website, very hardcore. So the article that they put out, the guy that wrote it, is very left-leaning, hard left-leaning. And I posted it on the Facebook page for the Prepared Homestead. But in the article, they quote a guy by the name of David Kilcannon. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce his name, but this guy is sort of an expert on insurgency. He was a former military person in Australia, but he has actually consulted with U.S. military forces on handling insurgencies in the Middle East. And so he does have a background in analyzing and coming up with tactics and how to handle insurgencies in other countries. And so he's basically has written this piece talking about what is going on in America, and are we involved? Is this an insurgency? Is this a type of civil war? And to put it bluntly, he says yes. He says we are on the beginning stages of insurgency here in the United States. And while the article itself, like I said, is extremely left-leaning, the information that he put out, I think is definitely worth listening to and was worth reading. If you want to read the article I'm talking about, you can go over to our Facebook page. It's just the Prepared Homestead, and you can read the article there. But I wanted to talk about it because it's just one more thing that's being printed or put out on the news, in the media, or maybe major politicians or something like that, that's talking about civil war that is happening, or this potential civil war, this looming civil war. Are we at civil war? This is a civil war. All this kind of stuff that we are hearing very recently. And for a moment, just let that sink in, that for the first time in probably anyone's life in modern history, the mainstream news and politicians, or at least some of them, are openly talking about not just the possibility of a civil war, but that we are most likely in a civil war. This is something that, again, I think that we the people, any of us, have become desensitized because of what's going on, and because that the bulk of all this violence that's going on is probably not around most people. We kind of ignore it. We kind of put it away and don't realize how serious things are getting here in the United States and globally. And, you know, before anyone says anything, I don't believe for a moment all of the violence that we're seeing in the streets has anything to do with systemic racism. Not that that's even really a thing, I believe. I don't believe it's a thing. But racism, social injustices and stuff like that, I don't believe that that's really what's going on. I mean, maybe there are people on the streets that believe that's what they're doing it for. But I believe the vast majority of the people, and the people that are really behind it, they get it. That this is that way to unveil their new world order. And they're actually saying that. There is been a flyer or a post going around. Facebook is allowing it. Twitter is allowing it. And it's an organization that was part of the Occupy Wall Street movement. And they are putting it out there that starting, I believe, September 15th, it was either the 15th or the 17th, that they are doing a siege of the White House. And basically they're planning on staying outside the White House 24/7 between now and Election Day. And they're calling it the siege at the White House. Doing this very openly. It's, you know, they're not even really claiming that it's peaceful. I mean, there's this hint that they're planning on doing it in a peaceful protest way, but they're being quite open about that they plan on, you know, laying siege on the White House and staying there until the election. And there's talks and rumors of why they're doing it. They may, you know, intend on actually trying to breach the White House, or if the president does not get reelected, to help remove him, whatever. But the point that I'm getting at is that in their little post about why they're doing this, they're calling on all people that are of like mind for them to come and to join them in Washington, D.C. to siege the White House. But in it, it says that they are doing this revolution. And they don't say that they're doing it for equality with minorities or to justice for, you know, George Floyd or anything like that. They're saying that they're doing it to push forward the New World Order. They're flat out saying it, you know. And so this is not, you know, it's not really some conspiracy that all this rioting and all this civil unrest is New World Order stuff. They're flat out saying it. There have been other people, prominent leaders within these marches and stuff, that have publicly spoken out that the reason why they're doing this is for New World Order, or to bring about communism, or to bring about Marxism, and so they're not shy about that. And so they're not shy about it. The media and a lot of the politicians are not shy about calling it a civil war. This article that I was referring to, the guy that's Kilgoran, something like that. I can't even remember now because I'm old. He says that, and he lists all the other times in American history, or at least in the last, you know, since the 50s and 60s when you had the race riots and stuff. Since then, of there being civil unrest in the United States. And he says this time is different. He said this time it's different for a few reasons. Number one, it's different because the dividing line between the two opposing sides also line up with the two political sides here in the United States. He said, and that's kind of the first time that's ever really happened, at least at this level. That it's literally the two political parties, in a sense, at war with each other. He says, and that's really where you get into that civil war. It's not little groups of minorities that's protesting or rioting because their cause isn't being heard. It's two political sides of a nation that are at war with each other because they don't like the other one's position on something. He said, and that's kind of where, you know, the Civil War starts to play into. He says also, for the first time in history, we have mass media. We have mass, cable networks, TV media, and of course, the internet. He said, so in the past, where maybe a minority was shot and killed or beaten, or there was a riot or something like that, he said, in the past, the news, the information of that many times was just kept local. Only local newspapers carried it, and maybe if it went across the nation, it maybe have taken days or even weeks for other newspapers to report on this. And by the time they did, the rioting had kind of stopped. So it kept things happening in just small little pockets. Whereas now, because of the mass media and the internet, we can watch this stuff happen as it happens live. And so what it's doing is it's inciting rage and violence in other people, like-minded people, all across the nation and all across the world. And so that's why we're seeing in places like Germany and England, they're doing, Black Lives Matter riots. And it's like, why in the world are they doing that kind of stuff over there? They care about it because they can watch the stuff on the news or on their internet, And the people that are like them, and a lot of them are these millennials, or not even millennials, the Gen Xers, that they're just, like I've said, they can't stand their society. They hate their society. They hate their parents. They hate law and order. They hate it all because they've spent all this time online and they have some utopian idea of what Marxism could be like. And they want that. And they're going to stand up and fight because my life's horrible. I'm so underprivileged. I haven't won my award today for existing. So now I'm going to stand up and I'm going to burn your city to the ground. Those kind of people are able to see this stuff as it happens, and so it incites them. And that's why what we're seeing is going on, and why it should be taken much more seriously than in the past. And I've heard people say, you know, I lived through the 60s and we had riots then, you know, we had race riots, and then we had riots against the Vietnam War. We had riots in the 80s, even into the 90s. You know, we had crazy militias and stuff, and Timothy McVeigh, and you know, the Oklahoma City bombing stuff, and Waco. You know, we lived through all that craziness. We can get through this. The problem is that the situation is very different this time. We're not, the factors have changed. And so because of that, it does appear that this will continue to escalate. And the guy that they're referring to in this article, he said he believes that where we're at now, and he used the example of the Waco. You folks old enough, all you old codgers out there that remember Waco, the Branch Davidians in Waco, which led to Timothy McVeigh in Oklahoma City, right? He said that we're past the Waco Branch Davidian phase, and that we're just leading right up to the Timothy McVeigh Oklahoma City phase. He said that's where we're at right now. He said, you know, if something happens, whether it's the election or something like that, it could cause us to go past that. And then once we get past that, there could definitely start seeing pockets of much more breakdown of law and order, and would be much more similar to what we would think of a civil war. So the reason why I'm saying all this is that most of you, I get the comments all the time, I see them, most of you believe and think that we are in a civil war. And I realize that a lot of people outside of our little, you know, like-minded groups may not see it that way. And I believe there is a reason for that. They want to keep it on the lowdown as much as possible for as long as possible, because they don't want people uprising and saying, what's really going, is this what's really going on? You know, just getting upset and speaking out or acting out or whatever. Because the reality is the vast majority of the American population gets their news from what's spoon-fed to them by the mainstream media. I and most of you probably get a lot of your news and information from YouTube or Twitter or different other, you know, not just Facebook. Facebook's kind of become a horrible place, but maybe you're on a Facebook group, or maybe you're on, you know, these other alternatives to Facebook and message forums, that you're finding stuff that's not being covered by CNN and ABC and NBC or even Fox, or certainly not to the extent that it should be. And so you know what's going on. You're seeing it. You're seeing more of it. But the average person has no clue. They don't get that kind of information. And so they're oblivious. They think, oh, there's some, you know, some people out protesting, you know, oh, and there's this pandemic that's just awful. But they don't see the real thing that's going on. They don't see the amount of absolute violence. They don't see that the mass, how much is actually going on, how it's happening in multiple cities every night, and how they're moving around, and they're bussing them around, and they don't see how that it's really being orchestrated and masterminded by people that really don't care about race or anything like that. They care about global domination. They don't see that kind of stuff. So we have to take that in consideration. And so they're trying to keep it quiet and low enough so that those people don't catch on that there's something going on that's not right. Because when those people get involved, that's when things really change. You know, right now, the people involved are what would be considered the extremists. You know, the extreme left, and while I'm certainly don't consider myself an extremist at all, the media and the government would consider folks like you and I the extreme right. And so they don't really care about us. What they care about is all those people in the middle that's just quiet and watching their TV and can't wait for football and basketball and you know, that's it. That's all they care about. Those are the ones they want to keep oblivious because they're the big bulk of the population. And they know if that gets upset, then they're really going to lose control quickly because it's just the amount of numbers. Will it get to that point? It's very possible. You know, the video I made yesterday about the election, I don't have a good feeling about it. It's not about who wins and who loses. I believe that regardless of the outcome, you and I, are going to lose this one. Because of whoever wins, the other side or other things, other factors are going to be in play. I think the globalist agenda has moved too far and too fast for them to just say, oh, well, our guy didn't win, we're just going to, you know, go away, or, you know, whatever it is. I think things are going to start getting worse. There's no indication that this is slowing down. There's too much momentum with everything that's happening. There's too many things going on behind the scenes that no one's really talking about. Weather changes, food supply changes, technology changes. You know, the things that are kind of going on behind the scenes to really gain control, to create, you know, a slave people. I mean, that's what I think in the end, that's what they want. They want us all under their heel. They want to reduce the population of the planet enough that they can control it, and then we'll all be just basically slaves to them. That's kind of what they want. And so that stuff's going on in the background also. And there's too much momentum with everything, I feel, for it to just up and stop. And that's why we have to be prepared. That's why right now we're living in a time that may be more important than any other time in history. We may be going through things here in our lifetime and in our world that humans have never even considered experiencing. So when I talk about how we need to be prayed up, have our heart right with the Lord, we need to have our mind, you know, psychologically ready for the things that we face, and we need to have our lives physically ready, physically fit, the things that we need, the knowledge that we need to have that now more than ever. And so there is a dramatic and kind of a emergency push to get that done, I believe. And I don't want to sound like I'm, you know, hyping it up. I really don't believe that I am. There's too many factors going on, and a lot of it I haven't even covered yet. Eventually I'll get to it. I've been covering a few things over on Patreon. So folks, I do think we're probably in the early stages of a civil war. We've been in a cold civil war for a while, and I think we're in the early stages of an insurrection. And how it plays out, I don't know. But you and I have to do everything we can to become prepared for that, because we don't know yet exactly where it's going to go. And there's a lot of possibilities of it getting worse. I mean, things could turn around. But I just have a gut feeling that they've pushed too far too long now, that they're not willing to you know, give any ground back. So anyways, folks, let me know what you think in the comments. I know I'm crazy, you know, aluminum foil, tin foil hat wearing guy. So all right, well, thank you all for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.